6 signs you are burnt out, not lazy. Would you rather stay in bed on your day off or spend it with friends? If your answer is the former, do you feel guilty for canceling plans just to stay in the warm cocoon of your bed with the TV on? Have you ever thought that even getting out of bed is a hardship, in a manner of speaking? If you feel that way on those days, what do you tell yourself? Let me guess. You tell yourself you're just lazy and mentally berate yourself for being unproductive. Well, here's the thing. Laziness and burnout have a lot of similar manifestations that it's most of the time quite hard to differentiate the two. First, let's talk about laziness. Being lazy is a negative trait, an unwillingness to work or put in any effort to do something. Simply put, laziness is a choice. Burnout, on the other hand, is not. Burnout is the result of prolonged emotional overload and stress. However, the two have several similar manifestations which make it hard to differentiate. Simply put, the way people present being burned out and lazy can sometimes overlap. They are similar in the sense that they both have reduced or low productivity, seem constantly distracted, have a dislike towards the job, and feel overworked. So, are you burnt out or just lazy? In order for you to know the answer to that, here are the 6 signs that you're actually burnt out and not simply lazy. Sign number 1. You feel disconnected from everything. Do you ever feel like you're going through the motions of your daily tasks, both at work and at home, on autopilot? Do you feel detached from yourself and everything around you? If your answer to any and all of these questions is yes, you may be experiencing depersonalization. It might seem like such a big term that you may not fully grasp the meaning of, but it is a common symptom of burnout. People experiencing depersonalization feel emotionally numb and empty. It's as if they're watching their life from outside of themselves. People who experience this don't feel engaged by anything. More than that, they struggle with the overwhelming sense of helplessness and inability to take back control of their lives. If you feel this way, how do you accomplish tasks? Or do you? If you don't feel like doing anything, watch out for the next sign. Sign number 2. You are no longer motivated. Have you ever felt like there's tons to do, but you feel so depleted you can't seem to finish any task you've started? You might think you're just feeling lazy and would just do it another day, or another, or another. But know this, laziness is a character trait that is basically a part of who you are, as character traits tend to remain stable over time. Meanwhile, burnout can cause even the most motivated and high-achieving individuals to become exhausted, apathetic, and unmotivated. Now, if you've lost the motivation to do things you need to do, what about the things you want to do? What if you start losing interest in that aspect too? Well, let's see. Sign number 3. You are no longer passionate. Did you used to have a sport you always made sure to find time for, but suddenly didn't find it interesting anymore? Or a hobby that has always been successful in helping you de-stress from your stressors at work and at home, but is no longer working for you? So, are you lazy or are you burnt out? A surefire way to differentiate the two is that a lazy person is just that, wanting to do nothing all the time. People who are burnt out, on the other hand, used to have passions and interests, but are now struggling to enjoy them. Burnout can make it challenging to engage in activities that were once enjoyable or fulfilling, like reading books, playing a sport, or even as simple as hanging out with friends. You may even begin to resent or hate these activities due to overworking yourself and pushing yourself to the brink. Of course, it doesn't end at that. There are also feelings that you don't care to have, which ironically is also a sign of burnout. Sign number 4. You are moody and irritable. Have you or the people around you noticed that you have suddenly become snappy and easily irritated? Do you feel like you almost have no control over your emotions as of late? Moodiness and irritability are actually common but also often overlooked signs of burnout. So yes, this might be the reason why controlling your emotions has become a challenge. And some people may even be an emotional wreck at times, especially when it never used to be a problem. These qualities are almost the exact opposite of that of lazy people, who are often very relaxed, laid back, peaceful, and unaffected by things. Unfortunately, this doesn't end here. Aside from losing control of their emotions, people also experience this. Sign number 5. You have neglected self-care. Have you ever skipped lunch or dinner simply because you don't want to get up from the warm cocoon of your bed? When that happened, did you berate yourself for being lazy? Well, that actually may not be the case. In fact, neglecting self-care and withdrawing socially from others are some of the most concerning and almost alarming warning signs that someone may be experiencing emotional and physical burnout. The easiest way to differentiate burnout from laziness is that burnout is not a trait you've always had, but rather a state that develops over time due to excessive stress and a lack of coping mechanisms. Yes, the operative term is develop over time, which means, sign number 6, these changes happen gradually. You don't just wake up one day and be burnt out. You may just not have noticed that these changes happened over time, since some of the changes are not that noticeable, or, as most people did, simply chalked it up to being lazy. Something you should know about burnout is that it develops in stages. In fact, according to studies, there are 5 major stages of burnout, each with increasing degrees of severity. What are the 5 stages? The honeymoon phase, the onset of stress, chronic stress, burnout, and habitual burnout. Number 1. The honeymoon phase. This phase is exactly like the honeymoon phase in a marriage, and it is associated with high levels of commitment, energy, and optimism, where you tend to experience high levels of satisfaction, which promotes creativity and boosts productivity. Number 2. The onset of stress phase. The second stage begins immediately after the honeymoon phase fades. You'll begin experiencing stress, although not every second of your day will be stressful. Number 3. The chronic stress phase. This stage is marked by a change in your stress levels, and it will become chronic. Number 4. The burnout phase. This is when you have reached your limit and can no longer function as usual. You may feel numb and experience extreme self-doubt. Number 5. The habitual burnout phase. In this phase, burnout has become a part of your everyday life, eventually leading to anxiety or depression, so it's crucial to get help at this phase. Experts say that many people begin to experience symptoms as early as the second phase, where there is still a moderate amount of stress. However, your optimism, interest, motivation, and performance may be noticeably declining. Having said all that, it is important to have self-awareness and monitor these things. In light of this, the earlier you spot the signs of burnout, the easier it will be for you to get help and recover from it. That's why it's so important to raise awareness about burnout instead of simply dismissing it as laziness, like most people tend to do. So if you or anyone you know may be suffering from mental or emotional burnout, please don't hesitate to reach out to a mental health care professional today and talk to them about it.